Now it's moving up my list because before it was moving down my list, but she sold me. If I have a bad experience, I have Joyce's email so I can write her a terrible email, a terrible review as well. So today we're going to talk about body image. I want to say maybe the pros, the cons, and everything in between, but definitely the impact that it has on the person. So, Joyce, before we jump right into that, do me a favor, please. Introduce yourself, tell my audience a little bit about you, and of course, where they can find you.
My name is Joyce Wheeler. I am a professional organizer. I am the owner of Tri Parish Decluttering Services. I have a decluttering and organizing tips and tricks on Facebook. That is a huge group. You can find me also at my profile page on Facebook, Joyce Holden Wheeler, or on LinkedIn under Joyce Wheeler.
All
So,
right. Go ahead. Go
uh,
ahead.
so I was going to say, let's say I forgot what I was going to say.
That's okay.
Um,
I deorganize your organized thoughts, so I do apologize for that.
I love that. I'm going to use that.
Absolutely. So, since I mentioned that, I have been told I have OCD because I organize and I clean and I just drive every girl I've ever dated crazy, every family member that still wants to see me crazy. What
Oh, I'm
is a
sorry.
professional? No, I'm sorry for them. Don't be sorry for me. I'm sorry for them. What is a professional organizer?
Well, I go into people's home and I also do coaching and I help them to identify the type of clutter that they have because there's 5 different types of clutter. So I help them figure out what type of clutter they have. And then we figure out which organizing personality suits them best because everybody organizes differently and people have a hard time keeping organized because they don't know their organizing personality. So that's what I do. Help them declutter, help them organize. And I do not clean. People think that decluttering and organizing means cleaning. I do not clean. You clean. I declutter, I organize.
I want that job. So are you telling me, Joyce, that you tell these people how to clean not only in their homes but in their lives as well?
I don't tell them how to clean. I tell them how to declutter. So yeah, I could tell them how to declutter in their lives. We need to do that too. Our head's got a bunch of garbage in it that we need to get rid of. Such as our body image. You know, and this is the thing too, is that clutter is misunderstood. People think like if you walk into a house, then there's stuff laying all over the place that you could barely walk. They think more of a hoarder home when they think of clutter. But clutter is that box you have in your closet from when you moved that you never unpacked. That's clutter. Clutter is things that are in our home that we are not using and are not serving us during this point in time in our life.
So I'm wondering how that would work for like someone like me because when it comes to my image, maybe physically and how other people still see me, I could definitely look forward to doing that because I think we all need assistance with that. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And then you got the people whose house you walk into and it's all nice and clean and tidy and there's nothing laying out. Don't open their closets or their drawers because they have everything hidden inside.
I look at that as like a metaphor. Like how many people who, let's say, for example, since we mentioned like body image, right? Like how many people are packing in things that are like hidden away from the world that's impacting their ability to function in life, right?
Right? And it's the same with body image. So, not only do we have that clutter that we're hiding in our closets and our drawers, but we have clutter that we're hiding within ourselves, hiding from other people. But like I said, we're also hiding it from ourselves because we don't want to deal with it, just like people don't want to deal with clutter. There's certain things, emotions, and feelings that we stifle down and push down because we don't want to deal with them.
I see if I take a look like online, I see so many people online that their struggle is not from decluttering maybe their lives. It's like they're trying to eat their problem. Like that's the perception, right? Like when someone is struggling with their body image, they may say, I'm too skinny, I'm too big, I don't like my butt, I don't like my tits, I don't like my penis size. All these things that really aren't that important, but because we put emphasis and value on it, we
Yeah.
clutter ourselves, to continue the metaphor. Like we maybe will bury that outfit that we really want to fit into, but it just reminds us of how poor we view ourselves. So when I look at, let's for example, if I take you as an example, what is this an area where you struggled with? And if so, what did you do to help yourself?
Well, I felt like at one point, like I had it under control and I was no longer struggling with my body image. And then I came to the realization that I still struggle with my body image. And I think it's hard for like harder for my generation because we grew up at a time where, now you'll see like thicker models, models who have some weight who are curvy. You'll see models like that. Where when I was growing up back in the 70s, it wasn't like that. Everybody was thin and like, there was like this picture perfect image of what a woman was supposed to look like. So it made it hard. And then you feel like if you don't, and the thing was too, was at one point when I was like 16, 17, I put on some weight. And the one thing that used to bother me that people would say to me was, you'd be really pretty if you take off some weight. I was like, what is that? What does that even mean? It's like, but that was one thing people would say to me that like bothered me. It's like my face is my face. It's not going to change. If I take off weight, it might thin out, but it's not going to change. It's still going to be my face. So that was a comment that I would get often that really bothered me. The other thing too was the males. It was like they I was invisible. And then once I took the extra weight off, all of a sudden I'm turning heads. And I'm just like, forget you. I'm still me. I'm the same person that I am on the inside as I was before. I haven't changed any. But now because I took off the weight, you want to talk to me and you want something to do with me? No. Mm-mm.
I th-
Not happening.
I think that's, yeah, I think that still happens quite a bit today. It's interesting to see when I look back at, let's say, because you're a little bit older than I am, and I do remember a time when I was a child where everyone looked really, really skinny, from the men to the women. The only people who were maybe larger were if they were overweight or obese, or they were like, they're the bodybuilder physique, right? They're very muscular. They're like superheroes to a lot of people. I look at when I was struggling with body image issue, I was on the other end. I was really thin. And I think that's probably where there's a difference between men and women. I think women are who are bigger are like invisible, whereas men who are very thin are invisible as well. It's like two different spectrums, right? And one thing that I went through is similar to you, where it just seemed like no one was paying any attention to me, even though you had the personality that a lot of people wanted. And I can understand how everyone has a preference, right? But it's interesting
Mm-hmm.
to see how much emphasis we put on the actual body. And you
Right.
made a good point where people, they're like shameless with it, right? Like one day it's like, well, Joyce, if you lost a lot of weight, if you lost a little bit of weight, you'd be more attractive. And then when you lose the weight, they're there totally forgetting the conversation that they had maybe a few weeks prior. Like how did that make you feel knowing that there was men out there who were maybe disrespectful in a way, but as soon as you start to make improvements for yourself, all of a sudden they started to come around?
It made me angry because as I said, I hadn't changed as a person. I was still the same person. Yeah, it made me mad. It was just like I felt like they were assholes. They were just like, you're a jerk, you know. It's like me and my daughter had just had this conversation the other day because she has PCOS, which causes females to have extra weight on them. And she's trying to take that off. But we had this conversation the other day how she experienced the same thing with with the guys as I did. That when she had extra weight on, they didn't want anything to do with her. Oh, you took off the weight. You look so great. Hey, we ought to get together sometime. And she's like, hell no. Just like I was, it's like, no, you know, once again, I'm the same person. I haven't changed on the inside. It's like you said, people tend to look at the outward appearance, and it's like you can't judge a book by its cover. You can't go by what I look like or by what you look like or what anybody looks like. I'll tell you something. I've seen some really beautiful people, but the minute they open their mouth and they start talking, it's like, please be quiet. You're a very ugly person. And I have met some people that were not very attractive and not very pleasant to look at, but they start talking and all of a sudden that goes away. It's like you see their personality and you see how beautiful that person is. So it's like you need to get to know somebody, but looks are great, looks are fine, but it's not everything. I mean, if you're with somebody that who you feel is exceptional and is a 10 in your book, but it has the personality of a dog bone, why are you with them? I don't want
Oh,
to be
I
with
made
somebody.
the.
I don't want to be with somebody who has no personality. If the person I want to be with, they a sense of humor is what matters to me. It's like make me laugh. If you can't make me laugh, goodbye. I'm
I
not
made the.
that bad.
Yeah. No,
I'm
you
not.
you have to be that bad because I remember I made a joke where that beauty will get you to my car, but it may not get you to my house,
Oh,
right? Because it's easy to go on a first date because let's say if we're in the dating culture today, right? Where it's very superficial. Swipe left, swipe right. It's mostly physical. So it'll get you to the car, may get you to the Starbucks down the street. We'll have a first date, right? But to actually get to my house, you're gonna need the personality because that's the type of person that you want to bring home. They're bringing you're bringing them to your area of peace because this is someone that you see
right.
something with. There's always saying that beauty fades and stupid is forever, but I always find that to be a little harsh. So that's why I always say that it'll get you to the car, but it won't necessarily get you to your door. Because when I look back at all the women that I've dated, different cultures, different body types. One thing that I do notice is that I haven't really been, now that I'm reflective, I haven't really been with someone who's really, really thin. I've been with someone that has a little bit of meat on them, maybe a little bit bigger, but they're around the typical average build. Like she might be like, let's say, whatever her weight is, right? But the thing that I enjoyed about it is that they were healthy. They lived a healthy life regardless of their size. And I think that's the part we're missing. Whereas some people look at someone and say, she looks like she's 150 pounds. She must be eating cheeseburgers all day. She looks like she's 200 pounds. She must be sitting and eating bonbons like Peggy Bundy all day long. But they could be living a healthy lifestyle. So when you see your daughter going through something similar, like now we're getting generation after generation. What are your
Well,
thoughts on that? It hasn't really changed much since when you were at that age, and now your
right.
daughter's going through it.
Right. Well, one thing is I'm glad you brought up the health issue of it, because just because somebody is thin doesn't mean they're healthy, and just because somebody has extra weight on them does not mean that they're not healthy. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. Like my daughter has problem with her weight because she has PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So she has a hormone disruption. There was a little boy I knew back in Tennessee when we lived there. He had a part of his brain that was missing that told him he was full. His parents had to put locks on the cabinets in the refrigerator because they said they woke up one morning and he was sitting on the floor eating flour, plain flour, because that part of his brain was missing that told him he was full, that he didn't need to be eaten. I met another woman at the gym one day, and she had told me that she had a problem taking off weight because she was on a medication that made her gain weight. So there's various reasons why people have extra weight on them. And for people to sit and speculate that because a person is built this way or that way, or they have extra weight, that they're sitting around eating all the time, is a bunch of bull. You need to educate yourself as to why these things happen. What's going on in this person's life. Have some sympathy, some empathy. That's a human being. Instead of bashing them because they don't look the way you think they should look, question why do they look that way, and realize that it doesn't mean they're sitting around eating all the time, because they're not. And my daughter still has extra weight on her that she's trying to take off, and she's doing Weight Watchers right now, and I guarantee you she's not sitting around eating.
I think that's like the myth, right? Like anytime they see someone that's a little bit bigger than themselves, they automatically think that they're sitting at home all day with a bag of chips, a dip, and candy. There are some people who do that,
Yes.
right? And there are some people who don't do that. Just like how there's some people who are skinny who do eat, and there's some
Right.
people who are skinny who don't eat.
Right.
I would probably, based on the research that I've done when I looked into it, a lot of people who are underweight and who are overweight, there is some issue there that they're trying to what's the word I'm looking for? They're trying to overcome, or they're maybe trying to substitute it, right? Like we've all heard about people who are eating their trauma, people who aren't eating their trauma. We've heard about people who were mistreated as a child, or they're teased, or they're bullied because of their body, because of the way it looked. Because everyone remembers their childhood. We all look awkward, right? Our teeth was growing crooked in, and we're growth spurts, and maybe we were taller than most people, we're wider than most people, we're thinner than most people, we're just socially awkward. We all were going through it. And I think if we can get to a place where there's more understanding and
I
saying
agree.
that there's different bodies out there. And one thing you mentioned earlier on, you mentioned that now it's a little bit curvier. I think unfortunately, as we start to view different body types, then we have people that are augmenting. They're going through the surgeries to look a certain way, and that's a whole different issue when
Yeah.
it comes to the body image, right? Because when you see that, you're like, oh, I want to be like that person, not knowing that that person really didn't earn it or didn't work for it. It was
Right.
just implanted, right? Like when you see some of the struggles that the young girls go through, are you reminded of some of the struggles that you went through? And do you see the differences today versus maybe a couple of years ago or back then?
Well, yeah, I do see the differences, because now it's like you're saying, there's things that they can do that can be done surgically, which personally I disagree with. you know I mean, I'm made the way that I'm made, and even though I'm not happy about certain parts of my body, I'm not going to run out and get surgery, because I don't think that that's healthy, and it's not a healthy body image. You're portraying somebody, something